last show, when you did your finger thing,
I was like,
we
what are you talking about?
totally forgot that there's audio as well, and so it was. As I was editing it, I was like, oh wait, how are people that are listening going to understand this?
Yeah, they're just.
So we just have to remember. I'm reminding you because I'm reminding me. So the other day, you saw a video, and it was something that taught you something in like 30 seconds, and you made a comment, and you said, like I just logged on and I went to this video and it taught me this thing in 60 seconds, and that was great. And I just went, yep. You remember this?
Yes, I do.
And so you also kind of bristled when I agreed so quickly. Not bristled strong, but you were like, you knew what my yup meant. What did my yup mean?
Well, we didn't really talk about it, so I don't know if I'm going to be really correct on this, but what I read into your reaction was that you felt like, yes, that's how it should be. Like, this is ultimately a good thing. It was concise.
Yeah.
And that it was somehow good to you.
I'm in this constant struggle constant search, constant quest. Quest sounds good rather than struggle, doesn't it? It's a quest. I'm questing for.
Now you're beating around the bush for something. What do you tell me?
I'm very aware of the kinds of videos that I watch. I don't watch a lot of long form videos, and our videos are long form, but people like our long form videos. And I'm like, I want to get to the crux of teaching stuff in the middle. I want to get to the crux of teaching things faster. I want to be able to identify the teaching points faster. And so like when you said, when you saw that video, I'm like, yeah, see, that's super great when you can find a quickly helpful thing in a video. And I think part of it, and I've thought about this too, it's just more work that I'm not sure if I want to do, is identifying those little things and then releasing the bits in our show. Like, the last show where you taught how to do the rosary with just your fingers, pulling that out and exporting just that section out as like a short or something like that. But I just don't know if that actually gets traction or findability on YouTube and that kind of thing. So I go back and forth.
Well, here's what I will say to that. There are times when you do want the information quickly because it depends on the content that you are dipping your toes into to sort of want to consume. If I were watching a lecture, I don't want the quick hit. I want the lecture. Give me the hour. But if I'm watching how to cook, salmon, then I want the quicker result. It just depends on my search on what drove me to the video in the first place.
Yeah. Okay.
That both are good. It's not, you can't give the 30-second tidbit of takeaway for a lecture for content that could change your life, because you need time. You need people to marinate in a topic and let them process and absorb. And that requires time, which is where we sit with our teaching. We need time.
So the giving campaign ended at midnight on December 31st. And there's a reason why I bring it up, even though we say, we're not in fundraising period anymore. Though if you want to give to Rosary, rosaryarmy.com/donate, we always need the funds. But the reason why I bring it up is, I don't know if you saw this morning, Mary, who has donated in the past, this is Mary B. I don't want to say her last name. She signed up as a monthly donor. Did you see this?
Yes.
So here's we're recording this. It's January 6th. So the giving campaign ended 6 days ago. Mary signed up as a monthly donor at $20 a month. Did you see her note that she put in there?
I think so.
She says, "Thank you for staying the course and helping me to grow in my Catholic faith. I love that you are focusing on the rosary. Know that I listen to your podcast or watch the video each time you share. There is so much I relate to as someone in the same age bracket. I pray for you regularly and pray my rosary every day, usually right away in the morning." So one of the blessings of, and this is going to tie back into what we were just talking about, one of the blessings of the giving campaign is that we hear from people, not just financially, but we hear from the Rosary Army community more during that time. And I'll be bluntly honest, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible time for us. The giving campaign. And it's just so wonderful hearing from the people who are impacted and involved in Rosary Army during that time. It's like those little notes, and that note like from Mary it's so helpful to us. And I throughout the course of the year, I don't realize how much I need it until you start to receive it, right? But she's saying right there, and other people said this during the giving campaign, how much these conversations that you and I have mean to people. And my brain is always of two lines. I can see it, and then I also struggle against it at the same time. I appreciate it, and I struggle against it. And it's just like so many things. It's like when I do a Bible study and I read some truth in there, I can see it, but I struggle with it, right?
Right.
It's
that's not for me.
Well,
it doesn't apply to me.
Or it is for me, but I just don't know how to do it, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so there's this huge desire in me to share the faith, to educate people in the faith, to help people know how to live the faith, but at the same time, like just this morning, I was reading in Love of Eternal Wisdom, and I'm reading stuff that St. Louis de Montfort said, and it was actually great. I had to stop and write about my desire to share this information, but is tainted by my past, by my sinfulness, by my unworthiness, by my stupidity, all these things that, listen, I know I've accomplished a lot, but I read his words and I'm like, I'm nowhere near him. And who am I to try to explain any of this stuff? And what was great was then I flipped the page and he says almost the exact same stuff about Solomon, because he's writing about wisdom, the wisdom books, so, wisdom, Sirach, and Proverbs. And he says, I'm an idiot, I'm a worm. And I'm like, okay, so.
Wow, that's perfectly timed.
So when we're trying to figure out how do we teach people, how do we make these things? And I know I talk about it a lot on the podcast of like just constantly, part of the podcast is trying to figure out how to make a podcast that's efficacious to everybody. And part of the efficaciousness, I think, just comes from the struggle. People just need to see people struggle, and which is just weird that our brains are like that.
You're making me, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I have to now because you said the key phrase that I said and was trying to offer some counsel to one of our adult sons who is home from college. And we were talking about his college experience and how it has just been a struggle year after year. And it's almost like intensifying. And so, one, as a parent, it's hard to receive that because you kind of were hoping that he would say, I am so happy at my college. I'm loving it. It's incredible.
Jesus is known to me on a daily basis at this Catholic college I'm going to.
Man, thank you for, encouraging me to go here, and instead I'm getting an opposite. Yeah. It's like, oh no, like, what do I say to this? How can I, as a parent, encourage our son? And it's like, there's something about the struggle. It's like, listen, that might be part of your required, necessary formation is that you learn how to struggle and struggle well, because life is going to give you a lot more of that. But there's something about this struggle that I think you're just supposed to go through, and you just need to trust the process. And so while our son has been home for this long, break between semesters, we've had a lot of conversations about the adversities that we've gone through in our life, including those cross-country moves that have affected each family member in a very uniquely different way because of where we were in our life, our age, our life experience, all shapes that.
And for people that don't know, like a little over 10 years ago, we went from the state of Georgia, where we live now, to Colorado, to Indiana, and then back to Georgia. So we did 3 cross-country moves in the course of about
school-age children.
With school-age children in the course of about 6 years. Right. And it was disruptive, and it was the exact I experienced a lot of moves growing up, and they screwed me up. And I did not want to repeat that for our children. And now as an adult, and going back to what I was saying about Louis de Montfort and like the screw ups, I'm like, I had no wisdom, I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then I did that thing, right? I did that thing to my children that was done to me, that kind of thing. And so anyway, it's that conflict is constantly there.
Right. But then to step back sort of objectively and to sort of look at that past.
Where we are now.
Well, look at the past experiences that were really hard in the moment. Yeah. You don't see the blessing in the moment. You just see the pain of the moment. But a few years outside of the moment, you realize, oh, but wait, if I didn't go through that thing, I would not have met that one person that has affected my current situation in a positive way. And then you realize that's part of the tapestry of God. A lot of times we don't see the tapestry, but God sees the tapestry.
Yeah.
He sees the picture. He's like, but I need you to go there because I know you and I know how your mind works and I know what needs to be fixed in you. And the only way to fix that thing is to put you through this fire right now.
Yeah.
And you may need to burn for a long time before you really get that impurity burnt out of you and you are healed. Trust me on this process.
And that terrifies me because I still feel like there's a zillion impurities in me. And even after being tested in fire of all those moves and everything,
Hey, but if you can get purgatory resolved here, more here than when you actually are in it, isn't that better?
Well, but my point is I'm like, this is what I tried to, I was trying to work this through this morning. I know we don't have a lot of time for this. This morning I was trying to work this out in prayer and journaling and reading this Love of Eternal Wisdom again. Every time I read it, or if I read a different version of it, I'm like, oh, why did I get that message 3 years ago when I read this the first time? The older I get, the more impurities I see, and I feel like I'm further away from perfection than I am closer to it because I accumulate more sins. I feel like I said something like this similarly on the last show. And I know that I'm forgiven by the sacrament of reconciliation, but the problem is the forgetting of things is very hard for me. I don't forget. And so they're constantly, and this is part of being someone who's been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I have the disorder of constantly being impacted by my past. And I'm constantly fighting against the feelings that dredge up from the past. And that includes my sinfulness. That includes the knowledge of my sinfulness. I'm acutely aware of my sinfulness. I'm acutely aware of the forgiveness I've been offered. But I also know that there's an incredible amount of, reparation that has to be given up for my faults and the mistakes I made in the past. But anyway.
Yeah, but you have been forgiven.
I know, but see, okay.
That's what you tell me.
All your listen,
sins are
I know. And I know that this is actually a level of confusion, not confusion, a level of struggle for me in reconciling in my brain the level of I've gone to confession, I've been given absolution, I do penance. Then after doing penance, there's still this lingering sense that's taught that I'll still, depending on the level of my sinfulness, and even though I was absolved, there's still a level of additional penance that I must perform for my forgiveness long term, depending upon the severity of my sinfulness and the stain of which I've caught. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about? Because otherwise,
it's like, I know I'm forgiven, but
right, there's always there's this still sense of, I just went to confession, I just was absolved, I just sat in the pew and did my penance, but somewhere between walking from the pew to my truck, even if I was struck by a bus coming through the parking lot at that moment, is there still a level of purgatory that I will have to, I don't know.
Like, did it really thoroughly clean me
is there
like you say?
I have this lingering sense that I'm still going to spend time in purgatory no matter what. And I don't know how to erase that.
Yeah, how to it sounds like it's a belief issue. And you have to really trust them. I'm trusting you, Lord.
No, wait a minute. I'll be honest, because I will say, I have been given conflicting information on that thing.
On that point.
On that point. I have, by priests and others. And I'm like, I can't get a clear answer on that one. And I hate to say that on a podcast. And I'm sure this is the kind of thing that I'm going to get some other conflicting information. I'm going to hear from Jeff Miller, who's going to give me Jeff, I'm going to go with you.
Go ahead and answer, please.
But then I'm going to get from someone else who's going to go, no, it is this thing.
If you die within 60 seconds of confession, then you're going to heaven.
Well,
but if you go to 5 minutes, you've probably already sinned.
Because here's what didn't happen when you were absolved. No. If you were absolved and you went to, okay, from the moment that you did your penance. So I say, I sit down in the pew and I do my penance. If I can do it right then. If the priest didn't give me homework that takes a week.
Yeah.
which drives me nuts because
Okay, stay on
that's
point.
even
Stay on
worse. Then I'm like, oh gosh, if I get hit by a bus before I can complete this in the week's time that the priest told me. My concern is that even though I'm forgiven, I'm not transformed. My concupiscence is still there. My tendency towards that sin might still exist. And
that's true.
So in the fact that it's in my thoughts and in my words, and what I've done and what I failed to do, I might turn around and see someone who will spark a memory of someone else who hurt me. And then an angry thought involuntarily comes bubbling up to the surface. And then I'm sitting there just for a second too long. Now I'm becoming scrupulous.
Okay.
Right. And then I'm fighting with that.
Oh my gosh, Greg, I got it. You're like the popcorn pot. You grab it, it's clean. Look how clean it is. But then you use it and then you get it dirty. But then you clean it again. But then you use it.
Yeah.
It gets dirty. And then you clean it again.
Oh, but let me say this. But even after, this is my struggle with the popcorn pot. Okay. Every night we make popcorn and I'll put that pot into the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Even though it goes through the dishwasher, getting clean, right?
Yes.
Getting absolved, right? There's still a buildup that happens of the oil on the bottom.
It's still like, it's clean, but I still see a residue.
And then every like once a week we have to take the what's the
like a scouring
the
pad.
scour what's the
stainless steel wool.
Yeah, the steel wool thing. I have to take the steel wool thing and scrub out the built-in.
Okay, the metaphor.
Right? And that's how I feel. It's like, because it's not spick and span.
Okay.
Until you do the steel wool.
The analogy.
And the steel wool is like the severe penances that I still need to do throughout life.
The steel wool, that deep layer of cleaning, I think is only possible when we bring that level of contrition to the table. That's the thing. That's the moving angle. Because sometimes we go in, I'm sorry for this and sorry for that. It's like, but only God knows the real level of sorrow that you actually bring to confession. And sometimes you get the gift of tears of like, oh my God, I am so deeply sorry. Like I see how it hurt you and I didn't quite see how I contributed that lash on your back, Jesus, for my sin. But sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't.
But then it comes back to like, see that's what drives me nuts, because then it still is a fault of my own weakness and inability to see something is preventing me from experiencing that full level of forgiveness. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. However,
and then that's frustrating because it's like, well, how do I have that if I'm not given a grace by God to be able to have that?
But I think the step that you're what we need to talk about, what we all do, is that sometimes we don't even want to sit and ask for the grace to have the contrition for the sin. Like we acknowledge the sin, but like, Lord, here it is. Help me know how it hurt you, because that's the missing piece. We don't see how we hurt God. We just see, I know I did something bad and I have to confess. And then we don't move past that. We don't give ourselves time to contemplate. We're in a rush to go get the thing, check the box, and move on with life, blah, blah, blah. And that's to our disadvantage. So we got to call ourselves out. Yeah. This is what we're doing wrong.
And so I'm not trying to sell the love of eternal wisdom, but hold on. But that's part of, I don't have enough wisdom to be able to get to that point. And so I'm praying for that level of wisdom now at the beginning of the year. So
we're talking about it now and sharing this with our viewers and our listeners.
So
how to confess better.
Real quick. I mean, we didn't know that was going to be the conversation, but obviously the Holy Spirit, that's how the Holy Spirit wanted us to start the year with this first podcast.
Our sins.
We raised just under $82,000 as just to let you know, with the giving campaign. So we fell short of last year by almost $70,000. We were $120,000 short of our goal. So we ask you just to keep praying for this ministry. We know that a couple people were going to donate after the first of the year. It is what it is, and we're just pushing forward, and we'll cut back where we need to cut, and we'll make changes as we need to make changes. But our intention is to still keep pushing forward and just trusting Jesus that He's going to give us what we need to be able to do this work. So that is what it is. So Thank you to the 250 to 280 people who did make a donation. We just cannot thank you enough. I have written my last handwritten thank you card of the people who actually donated. So over 250 cards, And I prayed for every single one of you. One person said, "Don't send me a card. Don't spin the stamp." I'm like, "What?" Then I got to tell you, he was the hardest one. I ended up praying for him the most because he kept popping up on the list. I went, "Oh, he just want me to." He just said, "Pray for his grandson." Oh, okay. Boy, that's really hard for me to just.
Just let me thank you.
Just let me thank you. Just let me send you a sticker.
This is so hard for me.
And so I ended up praying for him the most. But thank you to all of you. We did want to talk about something you've been doing, but I think let's hold that on for another show. Yeah. I wanted to give a quick health update on you for people who have asked and were concerned.
Yes. Okay. Basically, in the month of November, I did in fact go to a cardiologist, and that was a stressful thing, but thank God it all worked out. I found one to go to very close to home, and the first thing that they wanted to do was get me on a heart rate monitor. That was one of those wearable kinds, which is like super awesome, but annoying in its own way. But it's like a wearable. So you put like this film over it so you can get it wet. You can go to sleep. You just never have to take it off. We
should have taken a picture of it while you were wearing it.
It was this weird looking like a giant Band-Aid, basically. And it was a little annoying because on my skin, I just wanted to scratch it off. But you left it there, and I have to have like a little, like its own smartphone I had to keep within 50 feet of me at all times. So I got used to that, and I did that for 2 weeks, and I had no knowledge of what data was being resulted, but I know it was transmitting to whoever it needed to transmit to. But I was so grateful that it was really monitoring all my heart was doing under all activities, whether it was sleep or going on our 5-mile walks, which we did still continue to do. And so it would kind of capture my normal. But in that, because I was personally so aware of my heart rate being monitored, I was aware of my heart rate. I'm paying attention to my own heart rate, which I don't think I ever really did before.
Yeah.
And something about going to bed at night is where my heart is the most wonky, and I don't like it
Which
at
is
all.
because the whole incident and
everything happened at night.
Yeah, it all happened at night.
So let's see. So I'm still in the testing phase.
So what's next?
The next is, in a couple days, I'm going to do a stress test on a, what do you call those machines?
Treadmill?
A treadmill. Yes. Wow. Haven't been on one in a while. And I have to get an echo done and a couple, like it's like an ultrasound on the carotid artery just to see how that's going. It's things that the ER did not do. So this is more of a deeper dive. And if anything, it's a baseline of my heart's health at this point in my life, which is super good to have no matter what. And we'll get all those results in the month of January, and we'll know finally how my heart health is today.
Yeah. So thank you for the prayers for Jennifer these last couple months. I had the realization 2 nights ago. I was like, oh, she'd be dead for 2 months now if she actually did die that night. So that's a new thing that I have going on because I can't forget trauma ever. Thank you to all of you for hanging out with us. This is a short first show of the year. We've had these 2 other banked shows that I keep wanting to release, but news needs to happen, and I thought we were going to give more news. Well, we did. The Giving Campaign and Your Health. So the next couple shows are great conversations that I've been waiting to share with people. I think that those will be the next 2. They'll be coming soon. We have other fun stuff that we're working on behind the scenes for all of you. We're so glad that you're part of Rosary Army. If you want to help support us, rosaryarmy.com/donate. If you want to send us feedback, you can do so at feedback@rosaryarmy.com. We love reading the comments. If you're watching the video, the people leave down below. Thank you for being here. As always, make them,
pray them,
and give them away. God bless, folks.